How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Jimmer Range Pod. This is episode 4. If you haven't seen our other conference previews, go check it out. This is presented by Vendetta Sports Media. Go check out the site, vendettasportsmedia.com, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss any episodes. Today, we're talking about the Big 12. And so in relation to the ACC and the Big 10, you might not hear as much insightful commentary from us as you did on the other 2 episodes, just because our teams are in the other conferences, not in this one. But so Big 12 today. We'll open with just a quick discussion on the Big 12 getting some new members in 2023. So the Big 12 will be adding BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. And a lot of the motivations for that were definitely centered around football. But there will definitely be some implications as far as basketball goes. So Alex, why don't you get us started on just your thoughts on these new teams joining the Big 12?
I'm obviously, the football implications are there. It's why you kind of are snagging BYU and UCF. But I'm really excited to see what Wes Miller can do at Cincinnati and that putting him in the Big 12 in 2 years. I figure he still has a job there. He's done great work in the state of North Carolina. So even though he's a Tar Heel, I'm a big fan of his. So I figure he's going to turn around that program. It might be a little bit of a culture shock when they join the Big 12, but I mean, Kelvin Sampson might vault into the top 3 of the Big 12 upon his arrival. Like he recruits guys at Houston. So, and they'll play defense. And in the Big 12, when you kind of just want to run it up, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's funny that BYU is leaving the West Coast Conference, as if things couldn't get any easier for Gonzaga from a basketball standpoint.
Oh yeah, move to the Pac-12.
It seems like they always lose like an away game to BYU, and now
not anymore.
Yeah, West Coast is just even more of a Mickey Mouse conference for Gonzaga.
Unless St. Mary's.
Of course, yeah, there's still St. Mary's, the perennial bubble team.
But,
yeah. So from a basketball standpoint, like these are some pretty solid programs that are joining the Big 12. I mean, Houston was just in the Final Four a year ago. UCF probably won't add very much from a basketball standpoint. But no. I mean, yeah, so that, I don't know, they'll probably be like a bottom of the conference type of team, at least in the beginning. But these schools joining, they're just, the financial implications also are crazy. Like they're going to make so much more money than they did in their original conferences. And that's even, I mean, you have Texas leaving, you have Oklahoma leaving. Also. They're going to the SEC.
Yep.
So I mean, there'll definitely be a shakeup, especially if there's a continued domino effect and maybe some other schools decide to leave. But the Big 12 in 2023 will actually have 12 teams in it instead of 10. So that's nice. It makes it easier. All right, so we're gonna move into our conference preview, and we'll go through all the teams. If you are here for the first time, the way me and Alex do this is we start from the bottom and work our way up. So we start with just the teams that we think will finish last in the conference, and then work our way up to the top. We do this blind. We've not seen each other's rankings, and so we did not have any influence on what the other person thought as far as how the conference will shake out. That being said, for the last couple episodes, Alex and I have had very, very similar thoughts on how things will go, with maybe a couple differences, but overall, just a couple things that were different, but overall,
couple ovals,
pretty similar. And this one is no different, where I think our top 6 are the same. Our last place team is the same, and then the teams in 7 through 9 are the same. It's just the order is different. So, yeah, we're gonna kick it off. Number 10, Iowa State.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of hard to think of what to say for Iowa State because this team is just so bad. They're awful. They, I believe, lost every single
They
conference
did.
game last year.
0-18.
0-18 in the Big 12 last year, and didn't do a ton to improve the team this offseason. Yeah, I don't know, Alex. Do you have anything? Because I mean, this is clear to me. Like this is the last place team.
No, you're not wrong. It's definitely the last place team. You brought in Tyrese Hunter. He's going to be a solid floor general, but you're kind of just handing him the keys to the car, and you're going to let him run an offense as a bright-eyed 18-year-old in the Big 12, which for all the slack it can get sometimes, it's a deep conference this year. It'll be like 1 through 6 are tough teams. So you could be looking at another winless Big 12 season. And they're going to be starting. They have a new head coach. That's always tricky. And you have 7 new transfers. I mean, it's a team. And you lost Rasir Bolton, who was your go-to guy last year, who's now going to roll with Gonzaga because Iowa State to Gonzaga might be the greatest transfer of all time. You are going from not absolute bottom tier to a potential national champion in 36 games. So that's all I have on Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean they bring in transfers from high major schools.
Yeah. Ole Miss, Penn State. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice, but it is definitely not a good outlook for them, especially with such a deep conference as it is this. I mean, the Big 12 might be up there with the Big 10 as far as just the strength of the top teams in the conference. And so it's not going to be a good season for Iowa State, which is tough to see because I just remember a couple of years ago when they had like George Niang and like they were like a pretty solid like tournament team that
They were fun.
They were fun to watch. They could shoot the ball. But that is not the Cyclones team that you will be seeing this year. So
no.
Yeah, that's that for Iowa State.
Oh yeah.
Moving on. Number 9 is going to be Kansas State.
Okay.
You had them at 8. I had them at 9.
Okay, that's not too bad.
So yeah, not too bad. Not much of a difference there. Kansas State, they're interesting because while I do think over the course of the season they will just kind of bottom out and finish, 9th, 8th in the conference, they have I think they have the players to, steal a game from like one of the top 6, steal a couple games maybe. Yeah, I mean Nigel Pack is back. He's a sophomore, a little undersized for the guard position, but still a pretty solid scorer, and decent facilitator. They bring in a couple transfers who I think will contribute, but it's it kind of remains to be seen how much they actually make an impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I don't think K-State will be good, but I do think we'll be looking at them in a month or two, or not a month or two, in a couple months, and say like, oh wow, like they beat Baylor or whatever, so again, like I wouldn't expect a ton out of Kansas State. Just I just don't think they have. I don't like their depth either. Like I don't think they have the depth necessarily to survive in the Big 12 this season.
No, I mean it's a lot of the same things, right? I mean, any team in the Big 12, I feel like can steal a game. You've got great fan bases. They get to play Arkansas in November, which I think will be a great test just to see what they're made of. Then they get presumably they lose to Arkansas still, so they'll probably play Cincinnati. They could play Illinois. But I mean, looking at their schedule, it's not too bad till conference play. You've got Wichita State, Marquette. Those are some good, just solid games. But I mean, then you just kind of hit conference play, and you start after Oklahoma. You've got Texas at home, which is a great way to start. So, but yeah, I mean, they do have 4 out of their 5 leading scorers back, but it's going to be a bottom tier Big 12 team.
Yeah, especially because looking at their rotation, they're going to lose the battle in the paint basically every night, I think. They're going to run this like small ball lineup that they started to run at the end of last year. Most of their rotation is guards. So their front court rotation, I mean, they have a 7-footer. They have, what's his name? They have Davion Bradford, but he can't play every minute of every game.
No.
So, yeah, they'll run their like small ball lineup, which worked for them at the end of last year. They looked a little bit better, but yeah, I mean the blueprint to beat them is pretty simple if you have, a capable post player. So that it doesn't really bode well for Kansas State.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is TCU. You had them at 9.
You had them at 7?
I had them at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can get a start on TCU.
Looking back right now, I might have undersold TCU a bit because I'm a big fan of Mike Miles. Just the way I feel like he can run that offense. But he starred for that USA U19 World Cup team that won with Chet Holmgren and Patrick Baldwin and Jaden Ivey. But he's so composed. He's so composed. He's so patient. As a former point guard / shooting guard, the way he kind of just baits the center into sticking with him, and then he can just find the dump off pass is incredible. He can get to the rim with these. I mean, I'm really starting to think I undersold TCU here, but they do have 8 transfers, and shout out to the 3-man weave guys. If they're right, they're going to have 4 transfers starting, which Jamie Dixon is a great coach, but that is really tough to work with when you've got, it's good that you have your floor general back, but that'll be tough to run an offense in that regard. They still got guys who can score the ball, and it's a deep team, but how deep is the real question and concern.
Yeah, that is something we'll see with at least one team that I'm thinking of that we'll talk about a little later, just with making all the different pieces work when you bring in a ton of guys who are used to playing in different, offensive systems. And, how do you make all that work, and how do you give guys the touches that will best help the team? That being said, I do think there is some upside with TCU, not as like they'll finish in the top 5 of the Big 12 type of thing.
That would be something.
No, I don't think there's any way that happens at all. But I do think they have solid enough players. I said the word solid. You hate to see it. I do like the players that they brought in, and I think that I like the talent enough that maybe the concerns with how do you, sort that out. I'm maybe a little less concerned with that, just because I think they have some really talented guys, and could finish. I had them at 7, and that's probably the upper limit, I think, for where they can finish.
That's the ceiling. Yeah.
I think that might be the ceiling, and me putting them at 7 is me buying into their ceiling. But
okay.
I think we've agreed. I think there is a clear top 6, and I don't think any of these bottom 4 teams have really a shot to break in to the top 6. So that's TCU. Just kind of to summarize, brought in a lot of transfers, have some talented guys, but we'll see if they can, turn that into a successful team. Also, I'm pretty sure their program's on probation, I think, for like 3 years. So I don't really know what that entails as far as tournament.
I don't think it'll matter regardless.
You don't think it?
But yeah, they are on a 3-year probation.
Yeah. So I don't think that'll matter as far as their tournament standing. I don't project them as a tournament team, and I doubt that you do either.
No.
But if this is a team that kind of we see improve, I mean, Mike Miles is a sophomore, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So Mike Miles is a sophomore. Two of their transfers coming in are juniors. So if this is a team that we see get better, maybe that'll have some implications. But as of this year, probably not. All right, moving on. Number 7, Oklahoma. You had them at
I had him at 7.
what? You had them at 7. I had them at 8. And yeah, I think Oklahoma will be. They're always in the mix, right?
Always.
They were in the mix. They were in the mix when Lon Kruger was there, and now they have Porter Moser, who built Loyola Chicago from nothing into a Final Four team and a team that was taking down number 1 seeds and one of the best mid-major programs in the country. And so now, given the resources of Oklahoma, I'm very excited to see what he'll do with that program. But this is not. I don't think this is the year that Porter Moser's not going to come in with this roster right away and make a splash. They lost Austin Reeves, they lost Brady Manick, which, I think losing those 2 guys will have a serious impact on their depth, their shooting. I mean, Brady Manick said that he expects to take like 6 threes a game at North Carolina or something, which I don't even know if he's going to get that many shots, but either way, he was a shooter. You lose a shooter, and that's never good. They bring in Jordan Goldwire.
Yeah.
Do you like Goldwire?
I love Goldwire.
All right. I'm like kind of indifferent on Goldwire. He'll start probably with the team that they have. I think he'll probably start.
Absolutely.
And maybe probably get more of a, we'll get more looks of him than I think we did at Duke. We
will.
I'm
looking to see how he is. This doesn't need to be a Jordan Goldwire preview, but he has steadily improved his 3-point shooting. I'm interested to see how many looks he's gonna get with Moser, or if he's gonna kind of. It's a bad comparison, but like Clayton Custer, when he was running that Loyola Chicago offense, Goldwire is nowhere near as good of a shooter, but it could be a similar role. Like you've got an undersized point guard in a kind of way, put him in the comparisons between Tanner Groves and Krutwick, or I blanked on the name for a second, are just going to be, the offense is just going to translate there. So unfortunately for their Big 12, or good for their Big 12 opponents, because they have the tape, they can see how Moser will likely run the offense. But this team's going to hinder on whether Elijah Harkless can become a double-digit scorer, and if Tanner Groves' stats from Eastern Washington and his massive game against Kansas translate to the Big 12. That's Oklahoma, and I'm kind of buying in on that. I think it will, and I also like Moser. Not saying they're going to make the tournament, but they'll win a game in Lawrence or Waco or somewhere.
Yeah, I think they definitely have tournament upside, where like as a bubble team maybe. I think out of the bottom 4, they definitely, with Moser and with, I think specifically with Moser, that they have the best shot of any of these bottom 4 to make the tournament. We'll see if Tanner Groves can carry that over. He did. We've seen him go off against Kansas, so he's capable of doing stuff like that. This is a team. They'll play hard. They'll fight. They'll win.
They'll be scrappy.
They'll be scrappy, and that means that's worth something. But again, probably we're looking at between the 6 to 8, or 6 at the highest, like 8 at the lowest, probably for Oklahoma. But watch out for Porter Moser. In a couple years, probably a different projection, I would say. with
Yes.
just the way he's able to build programs. All right. Now we're moving into the top 6 where all of our picks were the same. So don't even have to check anything.
Amen.
Amazing. Yeah. Number 6, we had Texas Tech. Texas Tech.
Oh yeah.
So Texas Tech, interesting team. They bring in Kevin Obenor from Oral Roberts on a transfer, who I really like. I think he's awesome. He can really score the ball, and I look forward to seeing what he does in a high major setting against like quality teams. They lose Chris Beard, head coach, and I think in his replacement, I believe is his assistant. His name escapes me, but
Adams, right? Mark Adams.
Yeah. It's Mark Adams, and we've seen a lot of Texas Tech in the last couple of years just because of where Chris Beard brought that program.
Yep.
I do think they stand to fall off maybe a little bit without him, but they have some really talented pieces. They bring in for those of you who have watched Last Chance U, they're bringing in KJ Allen from East LA, and so that'll be fun.
It will be fun.
Depending on how much time we see him get, but I mean, that's cool. It's a cool connection. Yeah, they have a lot of guys who average double digits with mid-major programs. So we'll see. We'll see who kind of ends up being the top dog in this system. It's Terrence Shannon. Terrence Shannon is going to be the top dog in the system. He was, I think I projected him at this last draft cycle to be a borderline first round, early second round pick. He ended up deciding to come back to Texas Tech, and he's probably one of the best returning players in the Big 12. Depending on where you slot him in, he could be a first team All Big 12 or second team All Big 12 player. So yeah, there's a lot to like with Texas Tech, but I think where a lot of people are hesitant is just you don't have Chris Beard anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have anything to add on Texas Tech.
I really don't have much to add. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. They've got a lot of double-digit scorers, but yeah.
All right. Why don't you get us started on West Virginia, our number 5 team?
West Virginia. Well, they lost Miles McBride, and so replacing that on both ends of the floor is going to be super, super tough. I think I'm a little higher on them because I think, as a lot of people do in the country, that Malik Curry, his play at Old Dominion will translate and that he can kind of help lead this Mountaineers offense. But Sean McNeil, Taz Sherman, those guys are going to have to be the catalyst. So they're going to have to score the ball. Again, this is with Oscar Tshiebwe gone, it's an undersized Mountaineer front court. So looking at their roster, the tallest guy, 6'10". When you run into the David McCormicks or the Chama Chachuas or the Flo Tombas, it's going to be an issue with foul trouble. So those games are going to be tough. Bob Huggins can coach, and West Virginia will always be in contention in the Big 12 because of that. But, I had them at 5, but I really would not be surprised if they maybe fall to 7. Maybe that's a bit drastic, but they could drop a few games and then wind up out of contention in tournament play because probably only 5 or 6 Big 12 teams are getting in. Yeah.
And not only do you lose McBride and Tshiebwe, you lose Derek Culver too, who went to Tshiebwe, basically he said he was done
after 10 games.
Yeah, after 10 games.
Just straight up
they were able to Huggins was able to adapt, and Derek Culver kind of just took over down low, but they were able to kind of move to a more perimeter-centric type of offense with McBride, and that worked out very well for them. They were a top 3 seed in the tournament, and they were a solid team. They were one that I thought would make the Elite 8, and that didn't happen. But
did not. It's okay.
As is life with filling out a bracket.
Oh yeah.
So, I think a lot of me putting them at 5 is giving the benefit of the doubt to Huggins and just his ability to adapt and his ability to coach. And I think he's one of the best coaches in the country, just as far as what he's done, maybe with, he's not getting these like top 10, top 20 recruits.
No.
He's making do with what he has. And he's done a really good job of keeping that team competitive and making them a consistent tournament threat. So, yeah, but at the end of the day, you lose Derek Culver, you lose to Shibwe, I guess you didn't really lose to Shibwe. You lost him already last year, and you lose
Yeah.
McBride. And so they're still returning guys who can score the ball, and that will definitely help them. And I think their front court is definitely something that I am concerned with because it is not very deep at all. And so what I'm guessing is we'll see them return to more of a perimeter-centric type of offense.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have the guys in the front court who have a track record of producing. And so, yeah, but I don't know. I give Bob Huggins the benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt. He's a great coach. Great coaches do great things. All right, moving on. Number 4, we both had Oklahoma State.
Your boys. I'm gonna let you take this one because you've been high on the Cowboys.
I guess they're my boys. I've been high on Oklahoma State for a couple months. I wrote an article about how they will still be good without Kade Cunningham. I had them as one of my buys in our buy-sell section for episode 1. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Yeah. It hasn't aged, so you didn't miss out on anything. You can still catch up. The only player they lost is Kade Cunningham, and I love Kade Cunningham. I think he's a phenomenal player. Definitely deserves to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and probably the favorite to be Rookie of the Year just by virtue of him being the number 1 pick. He carried that team for sure, but they bring everybody back. Like, continuity to me is so valuable in college basketball. And we've kind of touched on that just because we've talked about how, with teams that have a lot of transfers coming in, we're maybe a little bit concerned on how they make that work, even if the transfers are super talented. This team doesn't have to worry about that. They're bringing back everybody from a team that was a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, all their contributors other than Cunningham. And they also bring in some really solid transfers. They bring in Cisse from Memphis, who's a former 5-star. They bring in Bryce Thompson from Kansas. And I mean, we'll see how many touches he gets, but I think he'll be a pretty big contributor. And then Tyreek Smith from Texas Tech, who will be a depth piece. I don't think he should land the starting job over the guys that just have been there. But overall, I love what Oklahoma State has with their continuity. And they're going to be a scrappy team also. They were still a scrappy team last year that, knocks some of the big boys around. And yeah, that's what I like about Oklahoma State is, their continuity, they play tough, and they bring in guys who are going to make that team even better. So yeah, that's the Cowboys.
Yeah. No, not much to add beyond I think Thompson will have a better year. It's not like it's not a hard transition in my mind to go from one Big 12 school to another. You're used to the conference. He played at Kansas. He's a former 5-star recruit. Like we talk about Cisse being a 5-star recruit and being able to anchor that, anchor the interior regardless of whether that's off the bench or in a starting role. But Thompson could definitely start. Alongside Avery Anderson, you've got 2 really good scorers. Thompson can shoot the ball. It'll give more space for Anderson to work because people have to respect that. This is a solid. Why'd I say solid? This is a really good team.
There it is. Let's go. Yeah, but that's just true though. Like that's what they are. So
they're great.
Yeah, I do expect this. I fully expect this to be a tournament team.
Are you worried about the
Um,
potential postseason ban because they got it moved from last season,
I think they're just going to keep putting. I think they're going to keep like
pushing
appealing
it
it
off
and delaying it and pushing it off.
until they have a
And
bad
at the,
team, or just till it reaches a?
I think at some point it'll probably just get dropped. If I had to guess.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if they keep
Um,
pushing it off, absolutely.
yeah, I don't know. At some point you have to think like it was so. We're like many years removed from when the
Oh, we
violations
are.
occurred, and also the coach. The thing I wrote an article about this also for busting brackets about why them getting a punishment from the NCAA makes zero sense, and it's because the coach who like committed the violations isn't even there anymore. Like you're just
Yeah.
punishing them. You're punishing the wrong people. And I guess if you want to claim, you know, lack of oversight, like failure to control your program or whatever, like that's fine. But at the end of the day, it I don't know. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me to say like, well, we're gonna punish these these kids who want to play basketball for something
Yeah.
that a coach did years ago who isn't even there anymore.
Yeah.
And it made even less sense last year because landing Kade Cunningham was huge for college basketball. And if they had gotten the punishment last year, I mean, the NCAA is just shooting themselves in the foot if they punish them last year
Yeah. If they
because you're
kept the
not,
number one pick out of the tournament,
yeah,
absolutely.
disaster would have been a disaster. And yeah, at this point, I do think I think it gets dropped, but yeah, we'll see. That's my prediction for it, and I think if they get punished, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. Um, Especially when you have Kansas and Arizona still like running around with their
Exactly.
nonsense. Like
Yeah.
Kansas like got cited around the same time as Oklahoma State for like 5 level 1 violations,
Yep.
and
And Bill
haven't
Self's
heard
still
it.
the head coach.
Bill Self still the head coach. You know, no sanctions, no nothing. Like it's kind of crazy. It's like the quote. There's the quote from I forget who it's attributed to, but basically like the NCAA got so mad at Kentucky that they're punishing Cleveland State or something like that. Like these like high level teams, they just they're not going to get punished for anything. And you
Yeah.
kind of saw that with North Carolina a couple years ago with their like academic
Oh
thing that they
yeah.
had going on. Like
Oh yeah.
they didn't really they got a slap on the wrist,
Yes,
and
they did.
they're we projected them to win the ACC. So basically no effect whatsoever on them
Yeah.
getting caught. But
Exactly.
yeah, so there's your
Anyways.
little. So yeah, anyway, there's for the viewers,
Anyways.
there's your little insight into NCAA violations and um, yeah, just stupidity on their
More
end, but
information than you need.
more information than you need that might not matter because nobody gets in trouble these days. All right, moving on. Number 3, the
Baylor.
defending national champion, Baylor Bears. I talked a lot about Oklahoma State, so why don't you get us started on Baylor?
Um you did lose your big three and Mark Vital. That is beyond tough to replace, and yet we still have them in what I consider as tier one of the Big 12. They're probably going to enter as a top 10 team in the preseason rankings. We'll have to see where we put them. But I mean, Matthew Mayer is probably a dark horse for Big 12 Player of the Year. It's going to be tough to beat out Marcus Carr, maybe even Trey Mitchell, Agbaji for Kansas. It's going to be tough to beat out some of those guys. But Matthew Mayer, he can shoot, he can score. He's probably going to be the go-to option alongside Adam Flagler this year. Those two guys are going to get the offense. They have to be the catalyst. Chama Chachua and Tamba, I know I talked about them earlier, and like the West Virginia concerns about their front court. Those two guys, while they likely are not going to be on the court at the same time, just one gets in foul trouble, you rotate the other one in. They can bully other teams. And two, like I really like Kendall Brown. They're freshman. Played with Tennessee's Kennedy Chandler. He might be the best true point guard freshman in the country. He's your prototypical two-way wing. He'll go both ways. He's a good slasher. He can step out and he can knock down a few shots to where you have to respect it. So Kendall Brown could end up finding himself in the starting lineup in a couple of games and be excited to see what that would look like. But and James Akinjo too. I don't know why I didn't mention him, but just third team, and I think is almost as many years, which Georgetown to Arizona. Now we're in Waco.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Exactly. He's been successful at all. I presume he'll be successful at Baylor too. I'm interested to see how Scott Drew uses him. But I'm sure he'll feel comfortable just giving him the keys to the car. So that's Baylor.
Mm-hmm. We haven't really talked a ton about this is our fourth episode, so obviously there's a lot we haven't talked about, but we haven't talked a lot about just the job that Scott Drew did. He took over this program when they were in the midst of like a murder investigation for one of their players, and it took him a while, but it takes everyone a while. He brought them to a national championship. And yeah, I do think losing those, you lose your three top guards to the NBA. You lose Mark Vital to the NFL.
The NFL, the Seahawks.
Weirdly enough, he's
squad.
on the Seahawks practice squad. Decided to become a tight end. But yeah, so this isn't, like you said, they will probably be a top 10, top 15, like preseason team. Easy. No doubt. But yeah, I don't think this will be the Baylor last year was just unbelievable. Their defense before they got hit with a COVID pause was one of the best in the country. Their offense was there to match it. And so I don't know that this will be.
It's not Baylor of last year.
It's not Baylor of last year.
If everything clicks, they can challenge for a national title.
Yes, they can still. They are in the running to go back to back.
Okay.
They are, and I don't know. The odds of that are probably pretty slim. I don't know who was the last. Was it Florida? Was the last back to back?
It was Florida. Then it was Duke before
national title. And that was Duke in like the early 2000s.
90s.
Oh, in the 90s. Okay.
And then it was UCLA.
Yeah. Yeah. So doesn't really.
It's tough. It's nearly impossible.
Pretty much
nearly
unheard
impossible.
Of. Yeah, because the thing is, you can even be the best, like one of the best teams in the country, but once you get into the tournament, all bets are off.
Exactly.
So it doesn't even matter if they're capable of it. Like just with the nature of how the championship works.
Absolutely.
It's impossible. Like it's so hard. And Scott Drew, great coach, is definitely the kind of guy who can make that sort of thing happen. Beat Gonzaga, who many considered to be one of the best college teams ever. Just with their offense was unbelievable, and he stifled them for the first 15 minutes of the national championship game, and that was enough. But Baylor will still be around. They lose all these guys, but they'll still be around. So don't think that they're going to fall off a ton, because they're going to be in the mix for sure.
Yes.
All right. Next up, you had like your tier one was 3 teams. Mine was these 2.
Okay.
I think it's a clear. I think like with all of the previews that we've done so far, I think there's a clear top 2. But we both had Texas. We both had Texas at 2.
Yes.
And so we've kind of touched on some names for Texas. We talked about Chris Beard going from Texas Tech to Texas. We talked about Marcus Carr potentially being he's going to be a candidate for Conference Player of the Year. And you had them at what, like in the top 10 of the old preseason top 25 that we did.
Of like late May, before
Yeah,
they got
like late
Marcus
May,
Carr, they were
before
8
they
or
got
9.
Marcus Carr.
Now they're 4.
Yeah, they're a consensus top 5, and that will be reflected in the updated
Yes,
top
it will.
25 that we put out this month. But this team is unbelievable, and I think the reason that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the reason that I put them at 2 instead of 1 is because we talked about it with, I guess it was it TCU?
Yeah.
Just with teams that they're bringing in a ton of transfers. Like most of their team is going to be transfers. And I think I've said it in an article before, but I think Chris Beard is the coach to make that work. He can figure that out. I'm not I don't think it's as big of a concern as some people have made it out to be, but at the same time, it is still a lot of guys who you need to adapt to a new system. And even the coach is new. You know, Chris Beard he's awesome, but he's still completely new. And yeah, it's almost like a glorified like pickup basketball team, like where you just are bringing in all these guys who've never played together, and
It's an EYBL team.
Have to just like make it work. Yeah,
It's an EYBL team.
Insanely talented for sure. You know, you bring back Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones from last year's team, which
Massive.
If you're gonna bring 2 guys back, those are the two guys that I would probably want them back. Marcus Carr,
maybe Kai Jones.
On his, yeah, that's the thing. They lost their whole front court to the NBA. Basically, they lost Kai Jones, they lost Greg Brown,
Jericho Sims.
Yeah, they lost Jericho Sims. He was a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah,
and but you replaced them with Trey Mitchell from UMass
and Disu
from Vanderbilt, who like these guys have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 double-digit scorers.
Yep.
On their team.
They could start all transfers.
They could, and I don't think they will, but
I don't
think
either. But they really could.
They could, and you know, having 7 double-digit scorers is the best problem to have because
it is.
They're not all going to score double digits for this team, but if one guy's cold, sub in somebody else, he'll hit the shots. Like you have guys to cover for each other. You have shooters, you have defenders, you have like they just have everything. And
they do.
The only reason I don't have them at 1 is because they're all new. That's the only reason. And maybe this is one of those situations. You can tell me how you feel about this, but where maybe they struggle a little bit early, and then like by the end of the year are just cooking teams. Just enter March as like a top 2 seed probably. Give me your thoughts on Texas, because I just kind of reiterated stuff that I've written before.
Yeah. Again, it's so similar. Like I could go back and reread what I wrote in May about this Texas team, and I feel like it would still stand true. Plus you're adding Marcus Carr. Who's going to give up the ball is going to be the main point of concern. Andrew Jones and Courtney Ramey can both play make, and so can Carr. Any one of them could kind of run the offense. I think it'll be Ramey because I feel like they'll want Carr more to be the scorer, but Carr again could run the offense. I just don't know how many points he wants to concede. You have loads of depth. Carr's turnover rate is the biggest thing for me because it has gone down every year that he has played. It was 2.3 a game, and he had such a high usage for that Minnesota team that, we're looking at potentially an assisted turnover ratio of 2-to-1, 3-to-1. Who knows? Which would be insane. But yeah, that Texas team, we're going to get one of the best games of the non-conference with them. They're going to play at Gonzaga. That's their 2nd game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be so much fun. They'll play Tennessee in non-conference, but that'll be in January. It's not really a heavy non-conference schedule. It's the Gonzaga game and then a bunch of California teams. that are not Pac-12s. So that's just gearing them up for Big 12 play. I'm excited to see them play Kansas. If they beat Gonzaga, oh man, that would be something. But yeah,
Yeah.
we can move to number one.
Yeah, we can. Last thing for Texas is this is a team that did not win a tournament game with Shaka Smart. They're going to win a couple tournament games.
Absolutely.
They're going to win more than a couple tournament games.
Sharpie, Texas, Sweet 16 at least. Put me down.
Sharpie, yes sir.
Sharpie,
we're breaking
Texas,
the Sharpies back out.
This will undoubtedly backfire. They are about to lose to a 15 seed now because I said that. But
yeah, yeah. But really look out for Texas. And even though they might not have other than Gonzaga and Tennessee might not have the strongest non-conference schedule, they don't need it. They're going to get those quality games in Big 12 play. So it's not like they have
talented. It won't matter. They'll get in.
It won't. Right. Like it's
Texas.
They're just going to be so good. All right, moving on. Kansas. Our number one team. Probably a consensus. I mean, I haven't checked like all the outlets, but probably a consensus top 3 team in the country.
They're a consensus top 3.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have them at 2.
Okay. Behind the Zags.
That has to be behind Gonzaga. But I want to say now that besides the fact that I think Duke can win the national title, and that's the homer in me coming out. Kansas right now is my preseason national champion for the sole fact that the preseason number 1 hasn't won the national title since 2009.
I would agree with you. They're also my preseason pick to win the national title, which scares me a little bit because I'm currently in the middle of writing an article on whether or not we can trust Kansas this year, because it seems like every year
we try to trust Kansas
that they're a top 3 seed, that they lose like in the second round or in the Sweet 16. And I mean, that was no different last year. They lost to
They made the Final Four in 2018. They beat Duke.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that's true. They did.
Yeah.
But like, they haven't. When did they win their title with Bill Self? They won in like 08.
They beat
Memphis. It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute. I feel like I'm talking down on Kansas. This team is insane. They're going to be awesome.
And they return. Continuity.
Yeah. Yep. Continuity, which is our
biggest
big
thing.
point, our big thing that we harp on with a lot of these teams. But they bring back, basically everybody except Marcus Garrett. I think they do bring back everybody except Marcus Garrett.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So, and they have some quality transfers. Yusufu from Drake, I think underrated really move, but I like it. I like it a lot. And Remy Martin, he'll be putting in buckets all day. Just a scorer. Yeah, they're gonna start 2 guards that are maybe a little undersized, but guys that can really score the ball and make the offense hum and just. I mean,
you don't think Christian Braun will start?
I don't know. Maybe, he probably will, to be honest with you. I think it's just that I'm pretty high on Yusufu. So I think in my mind, I just translate that to, he'll start. But
okay. No, still, but regardless, production will be there.
I'm not whispering in Bill Self's ear, so he can, he's going to do
Neither of us
everyone.
are.
Yeah, neither of us are. Yeah, we don't have those connections yet. But, and then their front court is back. David McCormack and Jalen Wilson, but David McCormack to me is he's got to be one of the most annoying people to play, because he's good, and it's just like, I feel like he's just like in your face and backs it up. But he could be a potential first team, second team All Big Ten player. Agbaji, he's going to be great this year. It's his senior year.
Dark horse for National Player of the Year. You heard it from me first.
You think so?
Dark horse.
You think so?
Dark horse.
Okay. We'd have to check the odds on that, but that's a really interesting take that I don't hate it. Yeah, and like Bill, like before Baylor came around, this was a team that was winning the Big 12 like every single year under Bill Self. And I don't think it'll be that different this year. I think this is a team that wins the Big 12 and enters the tournament as a number 1 seed. And after that, like we said, all bets are off. But as far as talent goes, you know, they're not lacking for talent on this team.
They're plus 1,600 to win the national title, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 10th.
That's 10th?
10th. I mean, they're tied with some teams, but they're 10th.
I'm guessing like Gonzaga, Michigan.
Gonzaga's plus 600. Michigan's plus 1,000. UCLA, Villanova, Duke, Memphis, Texas, Purdue, Kentucky are all ahead of them.
Memphis is that high?
Memphis is plus 15.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, that's good value there. That's good value for Kansas. For those of you who might want to throw some money on them. But yeah, give me your thoughts on Kansas, and then we'll jump into our all Big 12 teams, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about it. I'm really high on Agbaji returning. Just his movement without the ball is so impressive. He is more of a traditional like spot up shooter kind of wing. He doesn't often create his own shot, but he still scored 14 points a game. I think he can hit 18 this year, because he's gonna have more guys trying to get him looks. His backdoor lobs, he's gonna get touches there. McCormick's back. Jalen Wilson is back. You touched on that. 5 of their top 6 scorers got him. Bill Self, he's only won one Big 12 title in the last, I think, 3-4 years? No, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the streak is long gone, but
yeah,
he's going to be hungry. Got to beat Texas, got to beat Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence will be rocking as always. It's a good Kansas team. I'm excited. I don't like Kansas, but I'm excited.
I don't either. I don't either, but they'll have some fun basketball on the court. So
we'll see their schedule.
Yeah, check their non-conference. Bill Self, awesome coach. Had to do some sketchy stuff to get there, but overall, you know, he wins. He wins. Even if he does some, you know.
Yeah. They've got Michigan State, Champions Classic. They might kill Michigan State.
I think they might blow them out.
They might kill Michigan State.
Yeah.
They could play. They've got, it's called the ESPN Events Invitational. That's their preseason tournament. Mm-hmm. They've got North Texas, and then they likely play the winner of Dayton, Miami. So Isaiah Wong versus Kansas. And then they're likely playing Alabama, which that could be an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, beyond that, not much. You're going to St. John's. That's really it.
I think St. John's will play them tougher than Michigan State will.
Oh, wow.
I think so.
And they've got Kentucky. They've got Kentucky in the Big 12 SEC Challenge.
Okay, that's going to be a really good game, I think. Yeah, but I don't know. I'd pick them to win all those games. You know,
it's all of them.
Yeah,
32-0 regular season.
Yeah, undefeated national champion. No, this is a team that they're not going to get out of the Big 12 unscathed. They're going to drop a couple games here and there. There's just no shot. Yeah, 4 or 5 games probably. Yeah, because when you're going on the road to places like Texas Tech,
exactly,
the odds are just not in your favor.
No.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing we forgot to mention. I think we can be done talking about Kansas. National title, one of the favorites. One of the things we forgot to mention is Chris Beard going back to Texas Tech on, I think it's either January 2nd or February 2nd. He might just want to not show up. I think I put the tweet out that he might want to just coach from Zoom because that is going to be the most hostile environment ever. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
one of those where like the campus gets set on fire. Like people are going to be losing their minds over that game.
Lubbock is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's people already have it. Like I looked when the schedules came out and I was, looking around on Twitter and the only thing people commented under the schedule was like, got February 2nd circled, got the Texas game circled. Like it's months ahead of that. And people are already like, we're ready. Like we're ready for him to come back and just like let him have it.
Is it a weekend company trip to Lubbock?
Oh, hey, I don't
It is
know.
not. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday. I can't do that. I can't do that.
Dang. That's okay. Maybe we'll have to we'll find a game, like a good weekend game to go to this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be a worthwhile use of time. But all right, let's move on. All Big 12 teams. You want to hit this first? Or all Big 12 first team, I guess. We don't really do the other ones, but
oh, I got to think about this.
I mean, we can talk through it. I think Marcus Carr,
Agbaji. I was high on Matthew Mayer. I'll throw him in there.
Matthew Mayer and who? Who was the other one? Was there somebody else?
Carr, Agbaji, Mayer.
Oh, okay.
McCormick's got to make it, right?
You would think so. I mean, who's going to beat him out at that? If you're going by positions, like maybe Trey Mitchell. But like, there's so many mouths to feed on that Texas offense. Like, so I don't know. Terrence Shannon.
Yeah, I guess that would have to be it, right?
I mean, I think he's going to get a ton of. I think he's going to have the touches for it.
Yeah.
He's going to have the usage. So.
Oh, Avery Anderson, dark horse first team.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, Avery Anderson, dark horse. Player of the year.
Agbaji.
This might be you're going with Agbaji?
Yes.
I might go with you just because I don't really know. I think this is one of the toughest conferences to figure out, like, player of the year, because like with the Big Ten, I think we had like 4 really solid options to pick from.
They're all big men.
Yeah, they're all big men. But like for this one, I think that just the way the town is distributed, like there are a lot of guys I think who could find a way to win that award.
Yeah. I got one question.
Go
ahead.
What's up? Well, I was going to say freshman of the year.
Kendall Brown.
Yeah, no, it is. That's who it is. I was going to say, like, we didn't really talk about like the freshmen a ton because so many of these teams are going to be
transfers,
like returners or transfers. Like, so there's not going to be a lot of.
It's not the ACC
who really contribute. Yeah, it's not the ACC, but I think Kendall Brown he's probably got to be the pick there. So what was your question? What were you going to say?
So I know you said there's a clear top 2, but I'm gonna throw Baylor in here. Of the top 3 teams in the Big 12, would you take those top 3 teams over any other conference's 3 teams?
Ooh, let me think. Oh man, definitely like if we're just, I mean, obviously we're just going to be talking Power 5. Definitely Pac-12. Easy.
Definitely, yeah.
ACC, yeah.
Yeah, because it's Duke, Carolina, drop off.
Duke, Carolina, and then
Florida State.
And then who else? Yeah, so probably ACC, the SEC. It's really just a question of whether I take them over the Big Ten, because it's Michigan, Purdue, and then
Illinois or Ohio State.
I think I do. I think I do take this top 3 over any other top 3.
I agree.
It's, I don't know. Like when you have 2 top 5 teams in the country, like no other, it's hard to like for any other conference to top.
Exactly.
So, and then you have 2 top 5 teams, and that's not even the return, like the defending national champion. So I think you can. I think the only conference you can really make an argument for is the Big Ten, but that's like you're really grasping there. Yeah, but all right. I think unless you have any further thoughts on the Big 12, I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, thank you everybody for tuning in, whether that's on Spotify or whether you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. It really goes a long way helping us grow. So hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, drop a like on the video. I feel like I got to say that. Yeah, follow us on Spotify.
And Twitter.
We're on Spotify and Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. I forgot to plug this in the last episode, and I'm so mad at myself. Follow us on Twitter. We have a very fun Twitter, and I will die on that hill. I think our Twitter is a lot of fun. Yeah, so
At
you'll
Jimmer Range Pod.
At Jimmer Range Pod. You will see some of our articles. You will see just
You'll see all of our articles.
Basketball stuff. All of them. Yeah, everything that we write about college
recruiting
basketball.
News. Yeah.
Recruiting, previews, rankings, just opinion pieces, hot takes. It's all going to be on there. So go follow us. Other than that, I don't think I got anything else. So yeah, tune in next time for our next conference preview. Pretty sure we're doing Pac-12. Yeah, we got Pac-12 next week.
That works.
So yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For me, for Alex, we'll see you next time.
See ya.